lovelies, how is it going? If you are new to the channel, hello, I am Jamie. I am the Kansan Reader. If you are back again, hello, how are you? This one, why do I sound like I'm out of breath? Do I sound like I'm out of breath? Anyway, this one is a very special video. So there has been a classic that has intimidated me since high school. And then, of course, meeting my husband and, marrying into his family. This is my mother-in-law's favorite classic. She says it is it's hated for unreasonable stuff because it's a period drama. Two, during the time of that period drama, it's not going to be pleasant, and it also has characters that aren't going to be from what we think of, like a worldview that we don't think of anymore because it's kind of an atrocious worldview. But this classic has always intimidated me because of its thickness. Now, mind you, give me a chunky fantasy and I'm okay. I'm gonna read, I'm not intimidated by this. I'm gonna read it. Give me this classic though, which is a little skinnier, and I'm kind of intimidated. Ian Ghibli, I think is how you say his last name. Sorry if I butcher it. But if you do not follow Ian or Ashlyn, I highly suggest you guys go and do that because they are such an adorable couple. I absolutely love when they do book swaps. Anyway, getting off track. But Ian talked about this book and it made me go, okay, it's time to tell the intimidation. Enough's enough. Let's get into it. Gone with the Wind. Okay, let me tell y'all before going into this book, the only thing I really know is that Scarlett O'Hara, or is it O'Hara? It's Scarlett O'Hara is like one of the ultimate mean girls and one of the original mean girls out there. Yes, that's all I know going into this book. I do know there's a romance in it. I do know this is a very controversial book. But for me, I know there's going to be some language going into this because, we're in the South pre-Civil War and during Civil War. And I think after Civil War, I'll find out. But yes, sometimes people are a little simple when it comes to this book because they don't tend to realize it's not going to have the worldview that we have today, like I said earlier. And Scarlett is a mean, selfish person from everything I've ever heard of. And it's very blatant and obvious. So obviously she's not going to be a likable character. Not every book is going to have the viewpoint of a likable character. Either way, can't wait to get into this. I forgot to put this in, so kind of like an editing moment. Trigger warnings. Obviously we have racial slurs and just racism because this is during the time of the Civil War. We have language. The Lord's name is taken in vain. And I would have stopped this book right away, but the whole reason I read this book was because it's my mother-in-law's favorite. I might be taking another star away for just the Lord's name in vain in general and making it a 2-star. Once you get to the end of this review, you will understand my full rating. Child death, attempted rape. There's talk about when she's nursing wounded soldiers, some of their wounds. 2 cases of miscarriage talked about. I think those are the main major trigger warnings. If I missed any trigger warnings, please put them down in the comments below. And I hope you guys enjoy this kind of spoiler review. All right, y'all. Gone with the Wind. I just finished. I just finished part 1. I'm trying to collect all my thoughts. First and foremost, thank the Lord for audiobooks, because I needed it. I was struggling really to get into this, and I was just like, how am I gonna do this? Then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get the audiobook and I'm gonna listen while I follow along, and that has actually helped me so much more. Let's talk about the first 6 chapters of the book before we get to chapter 7. The first 6 chapters of the book, I was sitting there, I was like, why is everyone complaining about Scarlet? Like if you take her out of like the Civil War era and everything like that, you know what she is? She's a normal 16-year-old mean girl. Like, she's a 16-year-old. Okay, I didn't know that going into this, that she was that young at the beginning. And you know, when she gets the reject, and you know, it's like first love. I don't know about y'all, but I remember how I was when I got kicked to the curb, my first love. And I was like 13, but it was also kind of the same thing at 16, because I was still goo goo gaga over this guy, which, by the way, I'm so glad God took him out of my life, because the boy's already been to prison, and I seen him on Facebook, maybe on meth, so I dodged a bullet. Just saying. But y'all remember how you were at 16, okay? None of y'all were the perfect little pretty peach, okay? I know my almost 32-year-old self would either slap or full-on punch my 16-year-old self. Especially because my heartbreak music, like, I don't know about y'all, but I had heartbreak music, and it was Slipknot. So yeah, I would just get annoyed with myself. I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore. Just, oh my goodness. But y'all get what I'm saying. When you were 16, you weren't, you know, I mean, when you're a teenager in general, you're very selfish. You're very self-thinking. If I can talk, because apparently I can't do that today. You're very, everything's about me. And there are a few cases where others think about others, and that's amazing. Like, awesome for you. But when you come down to most teenagers, especially teenagers today, it ain't there. It's all about me, 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 me. So Scarlett was very normal for me for the first 6 chapters, and I was like, okay, why is everyone hating on Scarlett? Because, I mean, you take out the racism and the slavery, your average teenage mean girl. Speaking of the racism and the slavery, I knew, obviously going into this, that we were on the Confederate side in the Civil War. So, obviously, I knew there was going to be some racial slurs in here. What I did not expect, y'all, I did not expect the white trash talk. I did not even, I hate to call them this, but the slaves, I hate saying that. They even looked down on, like, the poor white people, and I'm like, y'all, oh my goodness, I did not expect that at all. Like, not at all. So that was interesting, especially, y'all, when that C word came across, I was like, not the see you next Tuesday kind of C word, but the one that, in its proper form, it means a snack, but in this form, it's a racial slur. I was not expecting that at all. Like, at all. And of course, when I tell my husband this, he's like, yeah, that was at that time. I'm like, of course he would say that. But, yes. Chapter 7. Oh my goodness. Chapter 7 is when I understand the rage people had for Scarlett. And chapter 7 is the shortest chapter of the first part. But it definitely makes you infuriated with Scarlett. So she, and I'm gonna just throw it out there. It's gonna be in the title. of this video, but spoiler alert, because I'm gonna talk about this because I need to talk about it. But when she's rejected by Ashley, and then she decides she's gonna marry Charles in spite of everything, that is like such teenage thinking. They don't think about the future. They don't think about like the consequences of a certain action. They're just gonna be like, I don't care, I'm gonna do what I want. Like that's a 16-year-old move. Okay, so that did infuriate me. I'm like, oh gosh. And when she learns, like with her action, she's like sitting there thinking, and it's already too late. She can't take it back. So she's kind of struggling. Like, yeah, that's kind of what you get. That's not what infuriated me. What infuriated me was the fact of after she gives birth to her son. Let me read you all this. Dr. Fontaine admitted that he was puzzled after his tonic of sulfur, molasses, and herbs failed to perk her up. Ew, that sounds disgusting. He told Ellen privately that it was of a broken heart that made Scarlett so irritable and listless by turns. But Scarlett, had she wished to speak, could have told them that it was a far different and more complex trouble. She did not tell them that it was utter boredom, bewilderment at actually being a mother, and most of all, the absence of Ashley that made her look so woe-begone. The actual fact that she does not care for her child is what annoys me. That is what got me annoyed with Scarlett. That's not I'm sorry, I had friends who got pregnant when they were 16 and 17, and they absolutely love their children. Like, even to this day, they still absolutely love their children. So that's not a normal thing. Okay, that's Scarlett being a witch. Well, really, she's being the word that rhymes with witch, but starts with the letter after A. That's what she's really being, but I can't say that word because that's a naughty word. But yeah, that's when I was like, okay, I can understand why people do not like this woman. And then, like, every morning when she woke up, and for a drowsy moment, she was Scarlett O'Hara again, and the sun was bright in the magnolia outside her window, and the mockers were singing, and the sweet smell of frying bacon was stealing to her nostrils. She was carefree and young again. Then she heard the fretful, hungry wail, and always there was a startled moment when she thought, why, there's a baby in the house. Why did I say it like that? Anyway, then she remembered that it was her baby. It was all very bewildering. And Ashley, oh, most of all Ashley, for the first time in her life, she hated Tara, hated the long red road that led down the hill to the river, hated the red fields and springing green cotton. Every foot of ground, every tree and brook, every lane and bridle path reminded her of him. He belonged to another woman, and he had gone to war, but his ghost still haunted the roads in twilight. Oh my goodness, girl. He rejected you. It's been more than a few months. Okay, you need to stop thinking about this man. Especially since he married his cousin and chose to marry his cousin over you. Yeah. I'm starting to get annoyed with Scarlett. And yeah, so thus I'm going into part 2. I'm wondering what Scarlett's gonna do in Atlanta.
Hey everyone, I wanted to pop in and kind of update you guys so far. I am in the middle of chapter 11, page 214. Y'all, I can see why people DNF'd a book because of Scarlett, because Scarlett is really right now a half-wit. She really cannot see that Ashley does not love her. She is reading Melanie's letters when Melanie's gone, and she's like, oh, this is letters that a brother could write a sister. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, this is actually kind of very intimate sounding, because he's bearing his heart out to his wife. And I don't think Scarlett understands intimate or love in any aspect. I think she only understands infatuation. And she's very infatuated with Ashley. I have talked some of this book over with my mother-in-law recently, because as the title says, and as I've said it before, this is her favorite book. She thinks it's judged for the wrong reasons. Scarlett is very, very much a product of her environment. And we were talking about how her father's kind of one of the reasons why she is the way she is. Now, my mother-in-law was telling me that her sister, Sue Ellen, is spoiled as well. We'll just get that later on in the book. And I'm like, okay. Because at first I was like, well, the sisters don't seem very spoiled as Scarlett in a sense. Like, they're not malicious as Scarlett. But Sue Ellen is kind of bratty, because she at least in the beginning at the barbecue, she wanted Scarlett's dress because she thought she looked better in that dress. And our mom's like, that's just not the dress for you. That color is not right for you. And again, we're dealing with teenage sisters who are probably very much in competition with each other. So I was like, okay, we'll get to this in a little bit. I had to do an update because Scarlett is just driving me nuts. I'm just like, this man does not love you. It seems like he's very much in love with his wife. And I mean, he even says in his letters that when he's spilling his heart out to Melanie about the war and what they're fighting for and all of that, he talks about how he viewed the future with Melanie. That should have been the indication to Scarlett that he's never thought about ever marrying her. He's always thought about marrying Melanie. Melanie was his future, and he thought they were going to be at 12 Oaks. For some reason, I keep thinking it's Twin Oaks, but it's not Twin Oaks. It's 12 Oaks. He pictured a life with Melanie running his plantation, 12 Oaks, which would, go into his name once his father passed away. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, Scarlett, open your eyes. This man does not love you. He never thought of a future with you. Am I mad at Ashley for always going and hanging out with her and stuff? Absolutely, because he kind of led this girl on to think that he might have loved her, but really he never was anywhere untowardly to her. He just went and hung out with her and had her as like a companion, but was never ever forward, never gave her really an opening to think that he was in love with her. I'm not really sure what his deal was, but she took it as something that it was not. Because I read this quote and it pretty much explains what I think of Scarlett's adoration or infatuation with Ashley perfectly. And it's not just a quote, it's a paragraph. So let me read this paragraph to you guys. She stood for a moment holding the letters to her breast, thinking longingly of Ashley. Her emotions toward him had not changed since the day when she first fell in love with him. They were the same emotions that struck her speechless that day when she was 14 years old and she had stood on the porch of Tara and had seen Ashley ride up smiling, his hair shining silver in the morning sun. Her love was still a young girl's adoration for a man she could not understand, a man who possessed all the qualities she did not own, but which she admired. He was still a young girl's dream of the perfect knight, and her dream asked no more than acknowledgement of his love, went no further than hopes of a kiss. He's not really someone she loves. He's just someone whose image she's in love with. I kind of have you in a weird position, I know. Move that out of the way, but I am going to be blow drying my hair for like the first time in forever. But while I'm getting it ready, we're gonna talk about Gone with the Wind. Get my moose going. Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind. Underneath, I have a lot of hair, so I have to kind of do some tricks to it. And as you guys can see, I put the mousse in and it instantly starts curling. But where's my y'all? Scarlett O'Hara and this Ashley person, like I really was expecting a mean girl. I was expecting, you know, that kind of thing. But her and Ashley, it's getting annoying. I was expecting a mean girl. Okay, I was expecting a girl who, yeah, I was not expecting what I got, to tell y'all the truth. I don't really know what I was expecting, but this was not the story that I thought I was gonna get. I was expecting, I don't know, a lot of balls, a lot of like debutante things with Scarlett O'Hara, but I'm not getting that. I'm actually getting into the war. I'm getting like a whole lot sooner than what we got. Like I was expecting what part 1 was going to be part 1 and like part 2. I was not expecting the war to be where it is. I was not expecting where we are right now. I wish she would just shut up with Ashley, okay? Again, I know I'm gonna regurgitate this statement so many times, but homeboy chose his cousin over you. Like, what more do you need for him chose his cousin over you? What more does this man need to do to show that he doesn't love you? Okay? Maybe he thinks of you like a young sister. Maybe, I don't know. But, like, the reason he chose his cousin is because he knew he was going to actually have conversations with his cousin. This book is just with Scarlett and Ashley, and just, you guys are probably gonna think I'm a broken record by now, but I'm just so done with it. I really am. I want her to figure out that there are other men who are interested in her. While, to be honest, I'm not a big Rhett Butler fan right now. A lot of people are like, oh, it's such a classic love story, yada, yada, yada. Where? Like, are we going to get to the love story in part 3? Because so far, the only love story in Scarlett's head is Ashley, who is, 1, her dead husband's cousin, and 2, the people that she's staying with, her in-laws, one of them is married to Ashley. So, yeah, and he'd be a brother-in-law, wouldn't he? Because she married, so Ashley's wife was the sister to her husband. So, wouldn't that be a brother-in-law? I don't want to do that math. Please don't let me do that math. Ugh. Either way, it is just done and over with it. I am waiting for the Rhett Scarlett love story. So far, all I get is that Scarlett does kind of have secret feelings for him that she's like hating and suppressing. And then Ashley comes into the picture and she like totally pushes all of those feelings out. And she's like, I am so in love. And we're like, girl, no. Girl, no. Stop. Just stop. Okay. But is she an OG mean girl? Yeah, she kind of is. She really is. But at the same time, I think she's very, very self-absorbed. I don't think she's outwardly mean like some, but that could change. Because like when people say she's OG mean girl, I'm expecting more from the first part. Because in part 2, she hasn't been quite a mean girl, to be honest. She's been self-absorbed, yes, obviously, but does she think things? Yes, but does she outwardly say, like, I'm expecting Regina George, y'all, and I ain't getting a Regina George. In her head, absolutely, but outward speaking, no. She's still very ladylike. So in the first part, yeah, she was very Regina George-esque. But so far in part 2, not so much. I'm just like, why are we not getting more about her son? Because I mean, she had a son. And he's mentioned a few times by other people, but not so much like he is not in Scarlett's brain at all, and that is what annoys the crap out of me. I will let y'all know. It's so annoying that she does not think about her son. I mean, I can hardly go a day without thinking of this little thing, let alone a minute. And she doesn't care about anything or anyone but Ashley. I bet you 10 to 1 if that son was was Ashley's, she would care. That's what's sad. I will say a really good scene was written when the battles are starting to be talked about and where victories were won and stuff for like the Confederate, and then where they lost. The one part that I really, really liked was that Gettysburg is starting to happen. And they're, like, worried. Like, no matter what side of the war they're on, death is not pleasant. And while I was not for the Confederate side, because, I mean, that side is a losing side, there's a reason why. And what they were fighting for was not just, but the death of so many men at Gettysburg. Like, if you know the history of Gettysburg, you know the amount of men that were lost in that battle on both sides. It wasn't just the one side, it was both sides. That scene where they're waiting for news, they're just wanting to know, are any of their boys safe? And then they're all at the news letter outside waiting, just waiting, like, is there any news? And then Rhett comes up and everyone's mad at Rhett because he's a spectator, he's a blockader, he's not one of the boys out fighting. So a lot of, like, people are just like, what is he doing here? He says that the first list of casualties is in at the Home Office, and everyone starts getting up, and he's like, hold on, don't go to the Home Office, they're about to print them in the newspapers. They wanted
this information away until the newsletters were finished printing, so everyone wouldn't bum rush the home office. And then right after he says that, someone opens up and they have like a few papers. The ink is still wet and people are grabbing. It's like a riot to grab because they just want to know if their sons, husbands, brothers, if they're alive or not. And Melanie, who's Ashley's wife, is sitting there and she cannot read it, so she gives it to Scarlett, and Scarlett goes down and finds that he is not on the list. And they're happy, but then their happiness is kind of broken by some of the people around them who's... There's not really much cries of anguish. There's some, but mostly there's like this numb feeling, which I think would happen a lot more than the anguish cries, because you're reading the person you love's name on a list, but it's not registering quite right. I love how that is so beautifully done. Like, that right there is 5-star tier. That scene is just beautiful. And then once Melanie leaves with another woman who found out her son has passed, Rhett kind of puts Scarlett back into a reality check with well, that's just the first list. That's not everyone who passed. And she's looking down the lists as well. And it's a reality check a little bit to her, because most of the guys she flirted with at the beginning of the book, well, I wouldn't say most of the guys, I would say 50 or so of the guys that are mentioned in part 1 are now gone. And then you kind of feel for the Tarleton's mom, who was like a fiery redhead who loved horses. You read then that all of her boys are now gone. Hey guys, 1, sorry it's super dark. My light's all the way over there. 2, sorry I'm kind of down. I left my stand upstairs for the camera. I have been coloring and listening to Gone with the Wind. I am at part 3 now. I'm hoping I don't have to hear about Ashley for the next couple chapters. I really don't. Because the last 2 chapters, Ashley is just everywhere. And I don't care. I'm so over it. Yeah, Ashley was able to come home for a bit. And Scarlett is like so just stupid about him. I don't understand why. I was sitting here literally going, woman, it is in your head. It is in your head. It is in your head. And then when this man goes to leave and his wife is probably in her room crying like her aunt is, Scarlett has the audacity to go over and ask him to kiss her, but this man has the audacity to actually do it. The what? I'm sorry, you did what? Like, no. That put a little bad taste in my mouth. Normally, I will DNF with the cheating, but I am determined to get through this stinking book. Chapter 16. Melanie finds out she's pregnant, and Scarlett sits there, and it like dawns on her that, oh, they went behind closed doors that night. Well, no duh, sweetheart, they're married. What do you think married people do, especially a man who hasn't been with his wife
for the first, what, 2.5 years, 3 years of their marriage. Like, bro consummated the wedding night and then had a couple other nights and then shipped off to war. Like, honey, he's gonna want to spend some time with his wife. Why are you so shocked?
Guys, I am upstairs in my bedroom and I am vacuuming out my fans. I'm getting ready to take the filter out of our wall unit and get that cleaned up. I now see the mean girl of Scarlett O'Hara in chapter 24, but at the same time, like, y'all, like, I understand her situation, but at the same time, she did not need to be that mean to Prissy. Though Prissy's been getting on my nerves. Like, every time Scarlett asks her to do something, she doesn't do anything. She just complains about it, which I have to remember, you know, she's still a child and all, so I have to give Prissy a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, man, she's annoying. She is an annoying character. I'm trying not to be hateful towards Prissy, but man, she's annoying. But again, Scarlett did not need to be as mean to Prissy as she was in chapter 24. And now I'm starting to see the mean girl y'all were talking about. I'm like, oh, we're finally getting it. Okay. interesting. But yeah, I'll let you guys know. I probably won't do an update until I get to chapter 31, which is the first part. I'll record after chapter 30 because that's when part 4 starts. So yeah, I'll let you guys know what I think of the rest of part 3. But before chapter 24, I was understanding Scarlet, and I was thinking y'all ragged on her too hard. But chapter 24, whew, she was a little, yeah. I just finished Gone with the Wind on my audiobook, and right now that the ending feels very lackluster and disappointing. That whole part 5 just feels, I don't know. I don't know. I gotta go collect my thoughts. I gotta go cook lunch. But I don't think I've ever disliked an ending like that in a while. I have disliked endings, but none of them are coming up to mind right now. I'd have to think of them, but yeah. I'll be back. Hello, my darlings. Because I like to lean, I got a pillow. But I have filmed this outro and final thoughts 3 times now. This will be my 4th. I just 2 of the times I recorded, they were almost an hour long, and I was talking non-stop, so there wasn't like a lot of pauses to stop on. And I'm like, Jamie, that's a whole video in of itself. You need to condense it down. I did condense it down to 20 minutes or so, but I just hated it. I don't feel like I got a lot of my thoughts out, and so we are going to try this again. So, final thoughts on Gone with the Wind. I had a friend ask me whether or not if this was still worth a read, and I had to legit tell her I'm still not sure. But I think I'm gonna go towards, I read a very intimidating classic, and I'm going to celebrate that in of itself. Now, what my final thoughts are there, obviously, the whole racism thing I expected. I wasn't very, like, shocked with all of what the deal was. And I have read a few reviews, and a lot of people, they still come at this with a modern mind. And one person actually said that the book was written in 1930s, and it was kind of written with a modern mind, but really it's not, because if you look at the 1930s versus where we are now, human rights now versus the 1930s are vastly different. You still, like, you basically had segregation going on. So no, I don't think it was written with a modern lens at all. So I highly disagree with that person. Like, I've seen a lot of people say that Margaret Mitchell is a Southern sympathizer, and this whole letter was a racist letter about how amazing slavery was. Like, I see what they're saying, but at the same time, I don't think it's fully correct. I think this person was writing from a viewpoint of a spoiled Southern woman, just how that person would have looked upon life during that time. Obviously, it's not going to be amazing. Obviously, there's going to be glorifications of things that we don't like, such as the Ku Klux Klan. Obviously, but again, this is written from the point of view mostly of a Southern plantation owner's daughter. So I see both sides of the coin. Really, I thought the book was okay. I will say, let's start off with a 5-star rating and go down from the 5-star to what my actual rating is. So, where I'm going to take off the first star is all the language, especially with as many times as the N-word is dropped. I absolutely hate that word. I don't care who you are, what color your skin is. I hate that word. That word is disgusting. It is a derogatory term. I don't care if you are a black person and say it, it's still derogatory. It's exactly how Scarlett and everyone else was looking at the poor white trash and calling them the C word. That I will not say in that derogatory context. I will not say it. I will refer to that as a snack, but I will not say it in the context that this book has it. I just will not do it. I find it derogatory. So I am definitely taking a star off for that. The writing itself is great. I don't think, you know how sometimes there's classics where they're really thick and there's lulls in it where you can kind of get bored and just want to put the book down and not pick it back up because you're a little bit bored. I will say I don't think I had any of that in here. The only time like I had to put it down was because I was getting so overwhelmed with what was going on and with Scarlett herself. Next thing I kind of want to highlight is that while I understand people's hatred for Scarlett, I don't understand how they don't have that same hatred for Rhett Butler. Their love story was... I came out of this book wishing that her and Rhett never got together. I really wish the ending was after part 4, she denies Rhett's marriage proposal and decides to stay a widow and continue on doing, like, maybe go ahead and like sell the sawmills, but maybe keep Frank's store and run that business and just deal with the life of being a widow. Or even better yet, selling Frank's store and moving back to Tara and running Tara with Will and Sue Ellen. Anything but what I got at that ending. Like, I explained the ending to my husband, and my husband even thinks it's a crappy ending. I really, like, the qualities of Rhett I did not like. First of all, when he asked Scarlett to be his mistress, and I think that was in part 2 or part 3, I can't fully remember, but he full on asks Scarlett for just basically to give it up without being married, and that just disgusted me. I was like, seriously, man? No. Then we get that, like, with his whole reputation and everything, we kind of know exactly what kind of man Rhett is. And another thing I don't like about Rhett is that when he's in jail and Scarlett goes and asks him for money, he's always laughing at her and calling her a child. And instead of explaining in a better way of, hey, I cannot write you this money because they can trace it back to me. If I could lend you the money, I would. And you wouldn't have to do any of those services for me. Because she's laying it all out, like, past dignity. She tries to get a marriage proposal, and when that blows up, she even offers to be his mistress, and he just still rejects and kind of laughs in her face about the whole thing. And then she does convince Frank to marry her, and it's like, I can't remember how far it is into her marriage, and she's at Frank's store because Frank is sick, and she's looking over the books. He saunters in and goes, Scarlett, you couldn't wait for me? Dude, really? Really? Then when he does propose marriage to her, it's at Frank's funeral. Like, everyone's coming in and offering condolences. I think he's in the parlor or whatnot. If it's not actually his funeral, they've just barely buried him. But he asks for her hand in marriage, and he says it's because he's going away and he doesn't want her to end up marrying another man. Her husband's barely cold, dude, and you are moving in on his wife. Why are y'all so harsh on Scarlett and not enough on Rhett? Because this man is disgusting. Completely and utterly disgusting. And I haven't even gotten to when they are married. While, yes, he does some nice things for her while they're married, he still aggravates her to getting an angry response out of her because he thinks it's funny. And he is constantly, again, laughing at her. And even all the way up to the end, he still calls her a child. What annoys me the most is, yeah, Scarlett is constantly about Ashley. She didn't treat Rhett well enough to just forget about Ashley and move fully into this marriage. And same with her other husbands. She could have been a whole lot nicer to her other husbands. But here's the thing. Rhett, after Scarlett denies she doesn't want any more kids, he still is not faithful to her and goes and frequents Belle Watling, who is a madame of a brothel, constantly. And he actually does kind of throw that in Scarlett's face when she brings it up. He never denies it at all. So, I'm sorry, but I don't like Rhett. Yes, Scarlett is a pain in the rear tuchus. Yes, she's selfish. Yes, she's manipulative. Yes, she's a mean woman. But you know what? Rhett is not the hero everyone makes him out to seem. And then the way the ending, we get Melanie's death, which completely and utterly gutted me because I absolutely loved Melanie. I think she knew some things, but she wanted to see the good in people. And quite frankly, I think we would have a lot better of a society if we had more people like Melanie. And, you know, she realizes both her and Ashley really don't love each other. Ashley and her have like a dream, like a fantasy of the other that will never be fulfilled because it will just never work. And granted, I do not like Ashley. He cheated on Melanie twice with Scarlett. So I do not like that. I do not like that Scarlett did help him cheat. And when she was married to Rhett, she never physically cheated on him. She was cheating in her heart and her mind. But Rhett is still not innocent. He did step out with Belle Watling. and he never denies it. Frankly, I really don't think these two should have gotten together. I think they should have remained like that weird friendship that they had, and Scarlet continue on in widowhood and went back to run Terra. I think that's the best way to wrap up really my thoughts. So part 5 took a whole other star rating away, so now I'm sitting at a 3-star, and you know, I am gonna take another star rating away because besides the language and everything, they also take the Lord's name in vain. Not the JC, but the GD a few times, and I was very uncomfortable. And normally I will DNF a book like this, but because it is my mother-in-law's favorite book, I kind of made the deal that I was going to read it all the way through and discuss it with her. That's why I went through with this and finished it. If it wasn't for her, I would have DNF'd this and been like, y'all are nuts thinking this is a classic that everyone needs to read, because it's not. Right now, I think I'm going to sit with a 2-star rating. If part 5 didn't happen, I would be sitting with a 3-star. But because of part 5, that part just ruined the entire book for me. Isn't it amazing how some books, they just have those few little things that it's not even the majority of the book, but it will ruin an entire book for you. That was Rhett and Scarlet's love story. And then the whole, just to be honest, I did not like the racism in it. I knew it was going to be there because we're in the Civil War, we're in the South. I really did not. I mean, no one's gonna like racism, obviously, but just, there's ways to tackle this subject and have like a racist characters without trying to dim it down. Normally, I hate rating anything lower than a 3-star anymore, but I am going to rate this a 2-star. While I'm glad I did give this a shot, I am a little annoyed because I could have given this time to something better. Like, at the same time I checked this out, I checked out The Count of Monte Cristo, but because this was taking so much longer to read than I thought, I took back The Count, and I'm kind of wishing to be honest, I kind of do wish I DNF'd this and just moved on to The Count. And if you guys want to read this and you went through my somewhat spoilers, I didn't spoil a lot because I really don't want to spoil a lot, but if you guys still want to read it, I'm not going to dissuade anyone to not read it. You know, you can make up your own mind. If you have read it and you disagree with me on things, that's fine. Again, reading is subjective. But yeah, I just feel at the end of the day that ending really screwed everything with me. Like, if I didn't have any good books that I'm reading right now, I probably would be going into a slump. I did go into somewhat of a slump yesterday. I couldn't pick up a book, any of my other books, after I finished it because I was just so boggled down with the way it ended. I will say I don't think this is a classic everyone needs to read.